I'd just like to stress a couple of things about a couple of slides before. Although we're based in Melbourne, or we've just moved to our new offices in St Kilda, beachside St Kilda, we do service clients from all around Australia, in fact, all around the world. So, I mean, last week we had an electronical engineer from the Philippines who was working in Dubai for the last 10 years, and we successfully lodged a TSS visa as an electronic engineer nomination and visa. So we do have clients not just in Melbourne, not just around Australia, but all around the world. So let's get stuck into the topic for today. Right, so the graduate visa changes have been thick and fast. All right, so first and foremost, we've seen on the 25th of November 2021 an announcement that permanent extension in the length of temporary graduate visas for masters by coursework students from 2 to 3 years. So we've had plenty of grants that have been with a duration of 3 years already. So that's amazing news for those graduates who have studied a master's or above. So also, in addition, temporary increase from 18 to 24 months stay for the temporary graduate visas for VET graduates. So, and this is the main topic that we're talking about today. So anyone who applies for the graduate visa in the graduate work stream based on their vocational qualifications, whether it's a trade or a diploma or advanced diploma, will actually have their visa granted for 2 years. So, you know, how good is that? I mean, another amazing piece of information for everyone. Moreover, so the temporary extension of opportunities for VET graduates to apply for temporary graduate visa by not requiring occupations on the skilled occupation list and not requiring skills assessments. Huge. So previously, I mean, you'd have to, if you were studying a diploma or a trade course, you'd have to study a program or courses that were trained you for an occupation on the medium to long term list. On top of that, you'd also have to apply for a skills assessment. I mean, if it was a trade occupation, you'd have to apply for a provisional skills assessment before you apply. And if it was a non-trade occupation, you'd have to apply for a full skills assessment. So no longer, or for the next year, until June 30, 2023, you won't need to have closely related studies to a medium to long-term occupation. You don't need to provide a skills assessment at time of application, and you don't need to nominate an occupation that links the features on the medium to long-term list. So it's pretty much open slather. So great news there. A skills assessment will not be a requirement for the graduate work stream of the 485 visa from July 2022. So this is a temporary VET measure. So basically, this pathway with no skills assessment, no occupation on the medium to long-term list, will be open until June 30, 2023. All right, so then now, I mean, previously there were only 2 streams of the temporary graduate visa, and with all the recent announcements, we have seen that increase to 4 streams. And what that means is accessibility to more people, to more students. So that's a good thing. So the graduate work stream, as we mentioned earlier, I mean, we can't express this enough because it makes us so happy, has temporarily increased to 24 months for visas granted from 1st of December 2021. So what that means is, I mean, it's a bit unfortunate for some applicants, but if your visa was granted, for example, on the 30th of November, it would actually be only valid for 18 months. However, if your visa was granted on the 1st of December, it would be granted for 24 months. So a bit unfortunate for those who had their visa granted prior to December 1. In saying that, I mean, there's been a really long processing time for graduate visas, which we're seeing is decreasing at the moment. So the people who got their visa granted for 18 months probably were on a bridging visa for 7 to 10 months anyway. So a bit of an equalisation there. But in any case, we welcome the news that the graduate work stream visas will be have increased to 24 months. Post-study work stream. So as we said, this is granted usually for 2 up to 4 years, depending on your qualification. So a bachelor degree would give you a 2-year post-study visa. A master's by coursework, which was granted after 25th of November 2021, would give you a 3 years post-study visa. So that matches the master's by research, which also is 3 years, and then a PhD would give you a 4-year visa. Second post-study work stream. So the 485 visa under this stream is between 1 and 2 years, depending on the regional location of the educational institution that you graduated from. That led to the grant of your first temporary graduate visa in the post-study work stream. So the regional area that you live in as a holder of your first temporary graduate visa post-study work stream. So designated regional areas, as you might be aware, include Adelaide, Perth, Gold Coast, Hobart, anywhere really apart from Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney. So depending whether you was in a city like Adelaide, you'd get an extra year. But if you studied in a regional area outside of those cities, you'd be able to get a second year as well. So another very good welcome news, because I guess 2 years and then or 3 years, depending on if you're a bachelor undergraduate or a master's graduate, can give you all that time that you require to be able to get a employer sponsorship visa, or through skilled migration, either a state nomination or even the skilled independent visa. So amazing news there as well. The COVID-19 temporary graduate replacement stream. So this stream has been available since July 2022, and it is applicable to those who currently hold or have held a temporary graduate visa that expired on or after 1st of February 2020. And you must have been outside of Australia at any time between the 1st of February 2020 and 15th of December 2021. Now, what is the price of a temporary graduate visa? So the visa costs $1,680 for the primary applicant. Also, there's a credit card surcharge, so you've got to add 1.4%. Additionally, if there are family members plus 18, or depending on whether they're plus 18 or under 18, then an additional fee applies for them people as well. So just a wrap up of what's happened. So as of 1st of July, new access pathway for the graduate 485 visa for vocational students. As mentioned earlier, we've already lodged quite a few here. So it's there and it's available. So it's really there to take advantage of. So the study that meets the Australian study requirement. So what's the Australian study requirement? It means that your course or combination of courses needs to be a minimum of 92 Cricos weeks, right? So, and provided you can, you have that, then you'll be granted access to the 485 graduate visa. You still need to be within 6 months of the last student visa that you held, and you still also need to be within 6 months of your last course completion date when you lodge the graduate visa. So if your student visa expired on, say, the 15th of January, then you would not be eligible because you've been more than 6 months without a student visa or holding a student visa. To activate your eligibility again, what you would need to do is apply for a student visa, finish a course before June 30, 2023, and voila, you'll be again eligible for the temporary graduate visa. Again, you also need to have completed your course within the last 6 months. So those two factors are something that you need to be very aware of. And importantly as well, you must hold a substantive visa, or a bridging visa A or B. So we've actually lodged many 485s from a bridging visa. Look, bridging visas are a little bit complicated, but obviously as registered migration agents, we're fully aware of all the different scenarios, and there's a lot of strategy there that can be sort of implemented depending on your individual circumstances to actually re-enliven your eligibility for the temporary graduate visa. I mean, so we've also used the COVID visa as a conduit to the 485. It's a cost-effective visa. So look, there's a lot of strategy that can be implemented, but I do implore you, if you think you may be eligible or you were eligible, or not everything is lost. I mean, please do consult a professional, because we might be able to find things that you don't know. Apart from being stuck on a student visa to student visa, you might at last find that you're actually eligible or can make yourself eligible to apply for the temporary graduate visa. So I implore you, please get some professional advice if you think that there may be a chance. All right, so that sort of wraps up the presentation. I mean, what we'll do next is we'll look at some tips that you can probably take notice of before lodging your 485 visa. Right, so the reality is, if you're an accounting, engineering, or ICT graduate, bachelor or masters, you should start your professional year program, because that will give you an additional 5 points. Also, organise skills assessment. So what that would mean is either consult a professional if you're going to use an agency to help you or guide you with your skills assessment process, or if you've got the time, start researching what the requirements are for your nominated occupation. Engineers is usually Engineers Australia. ICT or Information Technology professionals, it's Australia Computer Society. General professionals is VetAssess. Trade occupations is the TRA or VetAssess. So start researching and having a look at what the requirements are to pass a skills assessment, because most permanent residency visas require a skills assessment as a foundation. So with no skills assessment, you can't lodge an expression of interest for general skilled migration. Without a skills assessment, you can't lodge a permanent employer nominated visa, which is a 186 direct entry. So you'd have to rely on the employer sponsorship to transition on PR, and that has all different type of criteria as well. So if you're looking to go to permanent residency through general skilled migration or the 186, then start looking at and taking note of what the requirements are for a skills assessment. Understand all state requirements and which state suits you best. Just on that, today there was massive news in Victoria. So it was very restrictive, the state program or skilled migration program in Victoria last year. You had to be working in a target sector and you also had to be using STEM skills in your job to be able to be eligible for state territory nomination. However, today we've just found out that the program has reopened. It's open to all occupations, so that's a massive piece of news. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to put yourself in the best position and to be able to take advantage of this news in Victoria, again, I implore you, do your research, speak to a professional, so you can put yourself in the best position. It's a really good opportunity, that's for sure. Increase your points any way you can. Obviously, skilled migration program is very competitive. You're going to need English, PT or IELTS valid test report for the 485 anyway, and we'll go through that requirements because there's some good questions about that in the participant questions. But everything is becoming very competitive, so the more points you can get, the more you increase your chances of getting an invitation. And the graduate visa is a perfect platform to be able to increase your points, whether it's work experience points, whether it's English points. You know, there's no better way or no better visa to use or to utilize to be able to maximize your points for skilled migration. Study for a course if you're unable to get a skills assessment. So a lot of people may or may not know that there is no actually study restrictions on a 485 visa. So you might find that you've hit a bit of a dead end with your professional occupation for whatever reason. You've been trying for years to get employment, it hasn't worked. It's not a priority occupation, or it's not a long-term occupation, or for whatever reason, state territory government not issuing invitations to that for that occupation. You can study a course, or a trade course, where considering the graduate visa is for 2 years, and it gives you more than ample time to study a certificate 3 or a 4 in a trade for a duration of 1 year. So for the first year of your graduate visa, in the second year you can undertake the job ready program, and you can do that all within the time frame of your graduate visa. So, I mean, it's not for everybody, but I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that you got to think a little bit outside the square sometimes. I mean, and that's where, I mean, sometimes it pays dividends to go see a professional, because they can see something that you can't see. So, obviously, yeah, just keep in mind, but all these 5 tips are very relevant, and it should be stuff that you are considering whilst you're waiting to lodge your 485, while it's processing, and whilst you're on your 485. So there you go.